we have to find the lowest common denominator or least common denominator or the least common multiple or lowest common multiple. Okay, so it's just the same thing. And the reason why we're doing that is because we need them in order to add or subtract two or more fractions. So let's say we have three fractions where at the denominator we're dealing with 30, 40, and 60. Yes, that can definitely happen. So now how can we break this down? Because remember, we're going to use what we call the prime factors, the prime numbers. Okay, and again, a prime number or a prime factor is a number that can divide by itself and then by one only. Okay, so it's like 1, 2, 3, 5, okay, 7, all right, 11, 13, and those kinds of numbers. That's what we call prime factors, prime numbers. Okay, we are going to have video on that as well. So 30, how can we break down 30? So 30 can be 3 times 10, correct? So 30 can be 3 times 10. And 10 is the same thing as what? 10 is the same thing as 2 by 5. So afterwards, we have 2 times 3 times 5. That would give us 30. All right? Now, when it comes to 40, so let's split them up, okay? So when it comes to 40, 40 can be 4 times 10. Same thing as 2 by 2, which is 4, right? And then 10, which is 2 by 5. 2 times 5. Okay. And then 60 will be 6 times 10, which is just the same thing as 6, which is 2 by 3. Okay. And don't forget also that 10 is 2 by 5. So it's 2 times 2 times 3 times 5. So that would give us 60. So 30 is 2 by 3 by 5. 40 is 2 by 2 by 2 by 5. And then 60 is 2 by 2 by 3 by 5. We clear so far? Now these are the different prime numbers or prime factors. All right? Because each of these numbers, when you take them, you can only divide it by themselves and then 1, period. So now let's go ahead and then find the lowest common denominator. We said we're going to collect each of them and then see how many times they do occur. So we know we have a 2, we know we have a 3, and we know we have a 5. So how many times do we have 2 here? Once. How many times do we have 2 here? 3 times. How many times do we have 2 here? Twice. So we're going to take 2 the highest time it occurs in one of the numbers. So it occurs 3 times, so we're going to have 2 times 2 times 2. Okay? How many times do we have 3 here? Once. 3 here, none. 3 here, once. So we're going to take 3 also once that we're going to multiply. All right? And then, how many times do we have 5 once? 5 once, 5 once, so we're going to take 5 also once. Now we can multiply to give you the lowest common denominator. So that will give us what? So this is 8 times 2 by 2 by 2 is 8. 8 times 5 is 40. 40 times 3 is 120. So 120 is your lowest common denominator, which is just the same thing as your lowest common multiple, which is 120. So you see how we get these numbers here? Okay? So if we were to add, subtract, some of these numbers with denominators that have this, so the lowest common denominator would be 120. All right? So now let's go to the second one here. So we have 42 and 15. Those are the two numbers which are at the denominator of two fractions, for example. So how do we break down 42? So 42 can be what? 42 can be 2 times 21, right? So that's 2 times 21. Because 2 times 21 is 42. How can we break down 21? It's 3 times 7. So this one is 3 times 7. So basically you end up with 2 times 3 times 7. That's how you get 42. You see how we can break these numbers down using our multiplication tables, all right? Can't forget about that, okay? You cannot forget about that, ladies and gentlemen. So now 15 is what? 15 is 3 by 5, right? 3 times 5 gives you 15. So this is what you have, and this is what you have. Now you got to find the lowest common denominator. And to get the lowest common denominator is the collection of those prime numbers or prime factors. And in this case, what are the prime numbers that we have? We have 2, we have 3, we have 5, and then we have 7. Okay? We all agree? These are the prime factors that we have. So, 2, how many times do we have 2? Once. So we're going to take 2 only once. How many times do we have 2? So there's no 2 here. How many times do we have 3? Once here, so we're going to take 3 once. How many times do we have 5? Once here, 0 times here. How many times do we have 7? Once here and 0 times. So we taking each of these numbers only once. And we multiply them. And once you multiply them, you get your lowest common denominator. All right? So here, this is 2 by 3, which is 6. Okay, 6 by 5 is 30. And then 30 times 7, which is 210. Okay? So your lowest common denominator, LCD, is 210 in this case. All right? Because as you guys can check it on yourself, by yourself, take 120 and divide it by each of these numbers and see what you guys get. So let's do it together. So 120 divided by 30. 120 divided by 30 is going to give you what? It's going to give you 3 goes into 12 4 times. So it's going to give you 4 times here. Because the 0, 0, you can just drop them. All right? So you have 120 divided by 40. 0, 0 crossed out. 4 goes into 12 3 times. 120 divided by 60. 0, 0 out. You end up with 12 divided by 6. It's going to give you twice. So lowest common denominator is the smallest number that can divide each of these numbers evenly. And these are the numbers that they divide. Okay? And that's the reason why 120 is your lowest common denominator. We good? Same thing here. If you take 210 and then you divide them up. So 210 divided by 42. If you do it, it should give you what? 5. Okay? And then 210 divided by 15. We give you what here? 14. So 210 is your lowest common denominator because it can go into it evenly. It can divide these numbers evenly to give you 5 and 14, as we have here. And this is it. All right? So this is a good review for the lowest common denominator that you can use to really pump yourself up to be able to add and subtract fractions. Okay?